What's up, my friends? Back with another live. Thank you guys for joining us. So today we have a whole monster pile of tools in front of me. These are the tools that I use as an electrician out in the field. There's way more than this. This is maybe like a tenth of the tools that I have. But I just wanted to do some tool talk. There's a lot of people that are like really, you know, they got their tools that they love. There's tools that people absolutely hate. There's things that people haven't even come across yet. And so I've got some like really weird brands for things. So I just wanted to talk about them. So if you're here, please leave in the chat if there's any kind of tools that you specifically use. Like there's some tape measures that I know people like have their specific tape measure. But if there's stuff that you want me to check out that you think I might not know about, let me know. If there's stuff you absolutely love and die by, let me know. But yeah, these are my tools. Is everything good?
Everything's good. We're live.
All right. So should I start even? I think I'm going to start with knives. Okay. So I have always had a lot of knives. Like throughout my life, I've always like collected knives, not seriously as if knives like have collector's editions of things. I've just always had knives, and I grew up in, Wisconsin, Minnesota, that kind of area. So it's a little out in the country. Country boys just carry knives. So I've always got a knife on me no matter where I go. Recently, I got these Utica knives. So feel free to zoom in on this, Drake. I have a whole bunch of these different kinds of knives. They're all made by Utica, but they're like fantastic knives. Different blade architectures too. So there's some that have like straight ends on the blades. But I keep this thing on my pocket. It's got a little clip, so it clips right into my pocket every day. But there's all kinds of different ones, right? Like I've had this Klein. Some people like having this little thumb stump to open up. This one's spring engaged, so you can see I didn't really like put any effort into it. I just like touched it. And then to close it, it's actually spring held, so I have to like push to get past that spring. But I love having pocket knives. I like having stuff that's a little bit larger, that's maybe got like a 3 to 4 inch blade on it. I don't really like tiny knives, so like most of the knives that I keep, pocket knives. Even got some Electrician U etched ones. So if you're looking for those, there's a link in our description. So like Instagram, I think even in YouTube, like every one of our social media networks, we've got a link to be able to buy like all of these different Utica knives, and you can get some that have the Electrician U logo put on them. But I say just keep a pocket knife. Like as an electrician, it's one thing to have these, these little like fold out knives that we use, drywall knives. They're great for like, scoring stuff and doing really fine work. But a lot of times you're like digging into something and you need like a really stout knife. So opening boxes, all kinds of crazy stuff. So I keep one of these like in my tool pouch, but I keep one of these in my pocket for when I don't have my tools on me. So I recommend everybody get a good knife, and I would mess around with a little bit different kinds. Try a style that has this little stump on it and see if you like opening your knives with your thumb. I personally hate that. I have to like sit here and mess with it and like dig to get it open. I like having this little nub on the back because I just push that and the blade opens. And a lot of times, honestly, how I open my knives is I just shake them down. So I go like that and open them. I don't know why. I've just always kind of done that. But yeah, having a really good pocket knife or a couple of different pocket knives on you is great. I don't care too much about like extra features. Like you can see, this has got a little bit of a serrated thing on it. I never use the serrated part of a knife ever. Like I just don't ever find myself using it. What I used to use these for was I would take a wire and I would sit and use one of the grooves and I'd strip the end off of a wire if I didn't have like wire strippers on me. But there's all kinds of different knives you can get. So I think Utica's a really great brand though. So again, it will help me if you get a Utica knife, but I'm not just doing that because like I want money. I do it because I actually love their knives. So I have like 16 different Utica knives, and they're all different shapes, and I actually do really love them. As far as knives go, what do you guys think? Do you like the fold-up drywall or sheetrock knives like these, or box cutters, I suppose you could say, or do you like something that's a little bit more fixed like this? I kind of like both of them. I don't mind one of these in my tools because the handle actually sticks up, and I like that better. With this thing, you're constantly having to fold and unfold it, but it does have this little clip that you can clip it in your pocket if you want to. But I like that these fit down inside of pouches and things like that, but some people kind of hate that. So in any event, how many of you use a folding versus a standard? And let me go to the comments real quick. Ugh, all my screen closed and everything. Give me just a second, folks. Live. There we go. Oh no, it won't open. Well, I can just go on that. That's all right. Yeah, there we go. Cool. Thank you. All right. We got a hello from Moscow. Dude, thanks for joining in. We got some Ruskies here. I am so curious about like how y'all do your work. I've seen some videos of Russian electricians and like it seems like you guys deal with concrete walls a lot, so having to like break out concrete and put stuff in walls. But I'm also curious about the tools that y'all use. Do you have, actually, on that note, do you guys have brands like Klein, or are you typically more like Knipex, or do you have different brands out there that are just stuff that none of the rest of us have even heard of? Steve Hill, we run conduit a lot, so a bandsaw and reamer are always close at hand. Heck yeah. Got a little reamer here. I've got actually two different ones. If any of you have messed with like the Klein version versus the Milwaukee version, I would totally be interested to hear which one of you likes these styles more or less than the others. Bandsaws too. Yeah, if you're still using a Sawzall like I used to get eaten up in the comments back in the day because I'd be using a Sawzall to cut all my strut and my conduit, and people are like, bro, get a bandsaw. And I'm like, what is a bandsaw? And so I finally got a bandsaw. I'm like, oh my God, I will never use anything ever again. Like bandsaws for life, man. I pretty much use exclusively Milwaukee. So like all my powered tools, they're Milwaukee, but I've got all of the different sizes of bandsaws now too. So I've got stuff that you can cut like 4-inch conduit, 2-inch, half-inch, the little subcompact versions of them. Yeah, I'm bandsaw all day long. Spyderco knives from C. De Silva are the only folding knife that's never gave away. Probably like given out or given up on you. Spyderco, can you like write that down somewhere? Yep. I want to check into that knife because that's not the first time I've heard that. Thank you, C. De Silva. TJ Mooney, I'm not going in order because I hate when people do that because they always like miss comments. So I'm just going to jump around a little bit. TJ Mooney, hey, from Northern California. What's up, dude? You're actually logging in a little early. Like, it's probably, 9:30? Something there in the morning? Get to work, dude. Like, why are you on YouTube right now? Christopher Garza, Derek, I love my Gerbert knife. It's Gerber. I know you meant Gerber. Yeah, huge fan of Gerber. Leatherman Gerber. Buck knives are really great. I actually have quite a few Buck knives too, just because Buck as a brand guarantees their products for life. So if you're using a knife and you like snap off the end of it or something like that, you can send it back to them and they'll give you another knife. Or if it's something that can be repaired, they'll repair it, but they stand behind their products. So I really like Buck knives as well. Mo to Woe says folding. Steve Hill, always on my person, razor knife, 9-inch, lineman's pliers. You're carrying a 9-inch knife around. I'm like, whoa, he's got like a fucking tomahawk knife on him. All right, Sharpie. He's always got a razor knife, 9-inch lineman's pliers, standard and Phillips screwdriver, Sharpie pencil, bubble level, outlet tester, and flashlight. Dude, your pants, it must be heavy as hell to like walk around all day long with that stuff. I mean, I get it. Like, I'm not keeping levels on me throughout the day, but I do like, often I'll take a multi-tool like this where it's got, a 1/4-inch nut driver, 5/16 nut driver, maybe a 3/8 nut driver. We got 2 different sizes of Phillips flat, Robbie's, all in one thing. So this is magnetic. So you don't have to have like 17 different pouches or 17 different handles, in your pockets. You have this one tool and this gets you like damn near everything that you need. I throw a multimeter, either my T5 600, which is kind of the OG. This thing, you can tell it's beat up. Look at like how beat up it is, because these are the best multimeters I've ever found in my life. Like, you can drop these off of a damn building and they're going to keep working. Scraped up, like shorted out. These things just never die. Recently, they came up with the T6 1000 as its replacement. I actually really like this one too. This one does frequency. Non-contact voltage. It has field sense on it, so there's like a little bit more stuff that they've built in. They kind of just modernized this, but even the jaw is a little bit bigger, so you can get a little bit bigger wires on it. but it does non-contact voltage, you know, through the jaw. So these are my two things. But one of these goes in my pocket every day, along with one of these. I typically keep like a stripper. If I can get a multi-tool, something that's, do I have one here? This is an example. I just don't really like this specific tool very much because it doesn't have the high leverage handles. So if you notice on your pliers, you're gonna have way different size handles. These are high leverage lineman's pliers. This is what most people are using regardless of the brand all day long, because you just have that leverage, that really high leverage, because the handles are so long. And that's why cutting wire with them is really great. But when you have something that's this short, it kind of sucks. You can't cut very much with it. So your hand hurts using something like this. But I love these multi-tools. Like I even have this, Knipex has this, they just call it an electrician's multi-tool. So it does stripping. It has a little bit of like a needle nose sorta end. It has this cleating in here so you can grab onto things, but it also has like a rounded cutting edge, whereas a normal lineman's pliers is just gonna have a flat cutting edge. So like all in all, this tool will get me so incredibly far, and I'll probably grab a pair of lineman's pliers, and then I said I had multimeter. These I could carry around all day long. When I'm doing service work, which in the next couple months I'm moving back to Austin, and we're gonna start filming me out in the field every day. A lot of like business electrical contracting content, but going with me on service calls and stuff like that. So I guarantee you're gonna see these 4 tools just in my cargo pants, sticking out of my pocket everywhere that I go. Because there's not much you can't do. I mean, I'll have a flashlight on me probably too, because I like to keep a flashlight no matter what I'm doing, because oftentimes we're going into dark situations or dark rooms. But yeah, those are kind of my mainstays. So good comment. That one got me on a rant. Coletta 8, hello from Massachusetts. Oh, hey, you're by us. What part of Massachusetts? Kalamazoo, Michigan, Salem, Ohio, checking in. Thanks for being here. Love all y'all. Be sure to, like, it's great that you guys are saying hello. I love it. I love that you're here. But throw some stuff in here about tools. Like, is there any kind of, like, do you use Crescent's tape measure? Do you like that tape measure? Do you see anything on this table that, when we do an overhead, that you're like, oh, I have that, I love it? Or like, why aren't you using this, you idiot? You know, like there's a better thing to use. So please, like, give me as much feedback on tools, because when I get back to Austin, I'm gonna try to pick a bunch of different tools, and I want to find for my company and for the techs working for me, I want to get the best versions of everything. So like, you know, distance laser measure, like I swear by these things. This gets you up to 400 feet, measures across a building. If you do a lot of commercial work and layouts, like this is a tool to have, but not a lot of people have it. They're out there literally pulling their tape measure out and trying to tape measure every 25 feet along a path to try to lay out a room. Or they're using one of these dinosaurs, which I love all day long. I use these things. It's 100-foot tape. But you don't need to have 100-foot tape if you've got a distance laser measure. This one does up to 400 feet. I got one here that I think does like, I don't know, 180 feet or something like that. So if you have smaller buildings, this one's, I messed the screen up. Oh, 135 feet. But yeah, like, do you guys use these? Or do you like abhor and hate these things? I think any time that you can find a tool that saves you time, if it's even a little bit more expensive, who cares? But if it saves you time, makes your life a lot easier, I'm a fan of using that instead of some old archaic crazy thing. So distance laser measure, I use these to lay out buildings a lot of the time. I kind of actually, I'll use a distance laser measure with an actual cross level line laser. If you guys don't have one of these, this is a Milwaukee. Again, most of my power tools here are Milwaukee, just because they make the best power tools, like really just rugged, great, reliable, dependable. And they oftentimes they're trying to fix a problem that a different tool has. So anyways, I use one of these if I'm laying out like recessed cans, or if I've got a commercial roof and I'm laying out a whole bunch of lighting, pendants, stuff like that, because I can turn this thing on. Let me see if the battery's all right. Sorry, Drake, if I'm like totally blinding you right now. Yeah, so you can see, like, you know, this I can translate up onto the ceiling, or I can translate an entire line, and I can get a whole hallway. We do like really high-end custom homes, so we might have like a hallway that's 50 feet long or 100 feet long, and it's got cans centered all the way down it. So when I'm doing my layout, I'm just putting all my, I'm putting this on the ground, and I make sure that I take a measurement at the beginning, at the end, and I get my spacing right, and I don't have to make any marks on the ceiling. I literally can just go nail my cans up and get them all in a line. And then when I get down, I can see if there's any of them that aren't lined up right. So a tool like this is going to save you so much time. And sure, you know, it's a little bit expensive because it's a good tool. It's something that's going to make getting up and measuring off every ladder, every like 3 to 4 feet. You have to sit and take a measurement and move your ladder, go up, take a measurement, go over, move your ladder. It literally, I can lay cans out better, more efficient in a quarter of the time using something like this. And again, not just for cans, a lot of commercial stuff when you got like 30-foot ceilings in a you know, shell building or something like that. I use these all day long. It helps translate stuff on the ground too. If you're trying to figure out how to do something on a ceiling, you can translate the ceiling down to the ground and draw things and actually, you know, bend conduit and stuff, and kind of simulates the ceiling environment on the ground. So especially if you're up on a lift somewhere and you need some really good line at that center because you can't take measurements off of walls that are like way too far away or something like that, it just gives you the ability to like fake the blueprints onto the ground underneath you. So I love these things. All right, let me go to some more of these comments. Steve Hill, again, I like the Klein or Milwaukee tape measures that have 3-phase table. Ooh, I haven't seen that. It has 3-phase table. I did see something on TikTok recently where somebody had a tape measure where like every third number was like black, red, blue, black, red, blue. And I was like, why is that? You're not measuring things. And then I thought about it. And I'm like, that's got to be the breaker count. That's got to be like, if you're in a jurisdiction that uses black, red, blue instead of red, black, blue like we do in Austin, that's got to be helpful because then you know like what number breaker is what color phase. So that I do actually see that being really helpful. Even if you're just in a room and you're looking at a commercial print and it says like panel L145 and you're like, I don't even know what phase number 45 is going to be. So you go to that number and it's like, oh, that's blue or whatever it actually is. I think that's the reason behind it. So confirm with me in the comments if that's what you're talking about, because that's something I haven't seen up until that TikTok like 2 days ago. Uh-oh. Alan, how old do I look? I think he's probably referring to somebody else's comment. Jesus Ramirez, I really like the Racketeers tape measure. It has every inch colored to circuit number and makes things way easier when working in large panels instead of dividing by 6. That must be the thing. So yeah, would you mind writing down Racket? Did you?
Yeah.
On it. Drake's always on it. School Work says, Electrician U, would be cool to see a video on box fill and people using too many wire nuts and your thoughts on it. That's cool. I actually just did a video for our learning system on box fill. Actually, I think there's a couple different videos on box fill, conduit fill, things like that. If you're interested at all, go check out our learning system, electricianu.com. There's a link down in the description below. Oh, there's a snazzy little QR code here too. But I have like probably, I don't know, there's a few hundred videos that you've never seen because they're not on YouTube. They're only available to people in the learning system. But box fill is one of them. I go like really deep. I do multiple different examples. So we do have them. They just haven't made it to YouTube. All right. I'll go back to comments in a minute. Let's get some motion. So when it comes to lineman pliers, throw in, well, I guess they're all Ks. Do any of y'all use Knipex? And do you even say Knipex, or do you say Knipex or Knipex? So what's really funny is if you go to a trade show and you go to the Knipex booth and you listen to them talk and say their brand, if they're American and they're obviously like American looking people, they will say completely different things. A lot of people will say Knipex. A lot of the representatives say Knipex. A lot of them say Knipex. I had them send me tools like a number of years ago, probably like 6-8 years ago, just to test out a bunch of their stuff. And I actually asked them, how do you say their brand? Spelling it out phonetically. And they said it's Knie, like your knees, Pex, Knipex. You have to say the K because it's German, I guess. If any of you speak German, like verify that. But it's not Knipex. And I always said Knipex. Like that, it just sounds cooler, I think, or Nipex. But anyways, how many of you guys are using this versus Klein? I'm ride or die Klein. Like if it ain't Klein, it ain't mine. Except when other brands send me cool stuff, then they're also mine. So you'll see a lot of like racketeers. You know, I love these things. I'm Klein all day long, but there's something about the ergonomics of this handle that they just did right. These are so nice in your hands. They're small too, so like I really like small strippers. I just feel like I have a little bit more control in the fulcrum of where my hands are to the material as I'm working with it. It's like right here. Whereas if you have strippers that are long and your hands are way out here and you're stripping out here, you don't have as much control over the material, and you end up kind of like pulling harder and pulling at an angle, and so it doesn't strip really nice. So you kind of have to like put your hand up here to strip, and I just think it's stupid to have all of this handle. But I understand with a lot of functionality, this thing comes with like all these different crimpers. It comes with multiple different bolts that it can thread, a whole bunch of different sizes. So like I get why it's as long as it is, but all day long, the thing I got in my back pocket is this, because it's literally right here is where I'm working. The whole handle's in my hand. So that's what I like about this Racketeers one specifically. You'll see this one's got a 10 inch, or a 10 inch. It's got a 10 gauge that it'll do solid. This one will do 8. So I actually really like that it does 8. I kind of wish there was one out there that did number 6, but I haven't found a brand that does number 6 yet. So a lot of times we just score with this when we're doing number 6 and pull it off. But anyways, I just like the feel of these handles. So if you guys have not used one of these Crocs by Racketeers yet, I really recommend that you order one and try to mess with it. It's going to be weird at first because you're going to be like, why are they so flanged? But when you look at how your hand grabs, it's perfectly shaped. Like, oh my God, I just love the feel of these. Otherwise, if you don't want to like order one of these online and wait for it, these you used to be able to get at Home Depot for like 10 bucks, maybe 14 bucks. I know that Klein has recently not, they've stopped being friends with Home Depot. So you're going to probably have to go to Lowe's to find them. But in any event, that's the style I like. But I do keep like all of these other ones. So, you know, you see I have tons of these. I probably have like 30 more pairs of strippers that are all different. Like, I don't think I have the same one. I don't have 2 of the same one stripper. So like some of these I bought them just because of the crimping or because I want all of those bolt options. So I just keep that in my tools. I don't carry it with me. But a lot of these are just because of the different features that they have. These are obviously 1000 volt rated. You'll notice a lot of the ones underneath. I got a whole 1000 volt set that's got clean, good handles that are really well taken care of. Not a lot of like nicks or scratches or damage to them. If you have 1000 volt rated tools, if you have hot tools, do not let these things just roll around in your truck and don't take care of them. So with electrical insulation, what you got to realize is like this is insulation, but it's only insulation in that it's like a comfort grip. It's an insulation for your hand, so it doesn't hurt to just use the tool. It protects your hands, but it's not electrical insulation. And almost every one of these tools is going to say on the back side of it, do not use on live circuits, wear approved eye protection. The Klein ones say something a little bit different. This one says always wear eye protection. Not insulated, will not protect against electric shock. Whereas anything that has these 1000 volt ratings, where it says 1000 volts, this one says 1000 volts there, these are specifically designed with an electrical insulation, not rubber insulation. So this is a special kind of insulation that can withstand 1000 volts across it, from one side of the insulation to the other side of the insulation. The dielectric strength of this insulation will not break down. If you get over 1000 volts and you were to go like, you know, like 5000 volts on either side, well, yeah, the dielectric of that insulation is not going to be strong enough to withstand current going through that insulation. So anything up to 1000 volts, you're good. The reason I say to really take care of these is if you have a gouge or a nick out of these, now instead of having this much insulation between your hand and the metal tool inside, you only have this much. So now it's not 1000 volt rated anymore. Now that 1000 volts could get through and get through the dielectric of that, and you could still get really seriously hurt. So I always say with any tools that, you know, your red, yellows, and oranges, any of these that are specifically rated for using on live circuits, keep them in a bag, keep them under your seat, something where they're not getting rained on, they're not getting exposed to sunlight for a prolonged period of time, they're not like rolling around in the back of your truck. And I say, like, don't use these kinds of tools in your everyday 90% of the time where you're not working on live circuits. Use stuff with these handles, because then you'll never get confused. there's this weird kind of psychology that you go through when you're using a tool like this and you get used to never working on something live with something like this in your hand. And then you pick up something like this and your mind psychologically goes like, oh, whoa, the risk level is higher. I'm in a different mindset right now because I'm using these specific kinds of tools. That's my methodology. That's not like a hard and fast rule. It's just I want to know when I pick this up, risks are higher. I'm slowing down. I'm taking my time because I also know I've taken really good care of these. I'm mitigating risk with these tools in my hand. But if you're just out there like bending conduit or pulling stuff into, you know, a dead circuit, nothing's live, I would use these all day long. Well, I wouldn't use these. Can you do an overhead of this, Drake? So these are both Klein lineman's pliers. Essentially, it's the same tool. These handles are dipped in a vat of liquid. They're just dipped straight in. I've got a video out there, like it's called like Klein forging or something, how tools are made. There's two of them. One we did with the screwdrivers and one we did with the actual Kleins. And it shows how they make these tools. It's actually a really well-produced video with very few views. We spent
watch it, everyone.
Yeah, we spent the most amount of like time really making something like Netflix grade, and nobody watched it. But anyways, we show in the video that there's a huge vat, and they just dip these things into the vat up to this line, and then they pull them out and let them dry. This stuff, in my opinion, sucks. It's literally just this little covering. So instead of you having metal handles, it's like just a little bit of comfort. But these things, my hand gets sore. I hate these things. They are cheaper, but they're cheaper because they're not as great. They don't feel as good. They still work as a tool. It's literally the same tool. But I like these comfort grips more. There's just more padding to them. When you're using it as a hammer, it doesn't ring on your hand so much. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. You can actually see on this, let me get a little closer. There's a little lineman on here, right? On one side. And then on the other side, there is no lineman. There's a pin that goes inside of this tool. And that pin is actually kind of shaped like this. So they press that pin in one way. And if you mess up one of these sides because you're banging on staples and screws or whatever you're trying to do, you're using this thing as a hammer, if you mess the lineman side up, that tool will never open again. If you have a hard time getting it to open and close, you might as well throw it away because you're never going to be able to fix that. The other side, not as big of a deal. You can see that the pin's actually slightly larger on this side than it is on this side because it goes in at a specific angle. So that's really key, is like don't beat these things up more than you need to. So yeah, protect the lineman, I guess is what I was trying to say. If you're ever trying to figure out what side it is, protect the lineman. Another cool trick that you can do out in the field. So sometimes we just get stuff like drywall, dust gets inside of these and they kind of become like hard to open. I always keep a can of WD-40 on me, so I will spray these tools and just keep them really nice. I'm paying $45 for this pair of pliers, or this lineman's pliers. So like I keep it well. I keep these things oiled up and I try not to let them get all rusty. There's a couple pairs that I have that you might see that have some rust just because they're like 10 years old. No, these are 10 years old. And look at how easy this handle opens up. No problem. But if you're ever in a situation where you've got a bunch of gunk in there and you're finding like, it's kind of hard. There's no dings. I haven't been hitting that pin, so there's no actual physical dings in it. You can take a little bit of sand, like really fine sand, throw these in the sand. I know this sounds crazy, but you're going to get all these little sand crystals on the inside of this. Then throw some WD-40 inside of it and sit and just work them like crazy. And all that little sand, those fine granules, break up even more and they get even more inside of everything. And it cleans out the gunk that's on the inside of everything. And then just keep working WD through it and just keep doing that. And you'll usually break up all of the gunk that's on the insides of these things. Again, if you're hitting it and causing damage to the pin and denting it, that's not going to do anything. You just have a $45 tool that you have to throw away. So take care of your tools, Your vehicles too. Okay, so for some of you youngsters out there that just like to, like my dad used to tell me, just fill up with gas and keep going, and that's how you think vehicles work. You don't really like take time to take care of your vehicles. I was really bad about like checking oil. I've seized up motors because I had an oil leak and just didn't know the importance of checking my oil and keeping water in your car. To make sure, like a coolant in your car, to make sure that the engine temperature is running right. Like you got to understand, your tool is your vehicle, your truck, your car is the most expensive tool that you own. So to not take care of that thing, to not make sure that all of the oil is filled up and that you're checking the color of the oil, making sure that you have coolant in there, keeping tabs on what the temperature gauge is doing. You got to take care of these tools because it's the one tool that's going to prevent you from making any money if it doesn't work. You know, your truck is going to get you to every single job site every single day, get you to work every day. So you got to take care of that one the most. But with that mindset, also take care of all of these. Like, just don't use damaged, crappy tools. Go buy another tool. Or stop being so abusive to your tools and throwing them in the back of the truck and letting rain, you know, get all over your tools. Like, these are your professional things that make you what you are. Without them, you can't do electrical work. So take care of your shit. That's my whole thing. All right, so that covers, I guess, linemen. We've got the diagonal cutting pliers too. Dikes, a lot of people call them. That word, though, lately, a lot of people are like, can't say that word. That's not what it means. A dike is a shape. It's a wedge. A dike is a body of water. You can have a dike in a body of water. It's the shape that they're talking about. But these things are, you know, I would use these all day long, every day. These ones get seized up a lot too. Like these ones, you can tell that the handles in these open and close. This one's not, so I do need to throw some WD inside of like all of these and just kind of work it out. Or throw some sand in there. There's a little bit of oxidation on it. But you're going to use these things all day long. I like the journeyman style handles. That's what they call this style of a handle rather than the dipped. But yeah, you know the importance of these. The big thing is not cutting into live circuits. If you're about to cut some Romex, always check and make sure everything's off first. As an apprentice, I probably blew up like 20 of these things before I finally realized, like, okay, I keep going through these tools and I keep being stupid and just cutting stuff, and then all of a sudden I've got this poof right in front of me because I'm cutting through a hot and a ground and a neutral all at the same time. So, you know, go through, put a plug tester in, make sure something's dead. Go through, take your tick tracer. I know I got a tick tracer. Your non-contact voltage tester. This guy. Be careful because you shouldn't trust these very much. They don't actually give you voltage readings. They use capacitive coupling in how they work, but they just go beep, 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 beep. So be very careful when you're using this, but at least this is one level of like putting this on a wire and making sure something's dead before you cut into it. But also, this is never for testing actual voltage to see if a circuit is live, energized, de-energized. This is just for the presence of power. So I use these in a situation where I'm trying to figure out which wire I'm dealing with. And if somebody has a switch and they're turning something on, this thing will start going beep, 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 and they shut it off and it goes off. I know I've got the right wire, but I'm not like trusting that there's no power, that this thing is completely de-energized with this thing, because they can lie to you and people have to know how to use them right. So I always go through with an actual multimeter and verify after I think something is de-energized. So that's my thoughts on that. But yeah, you will blow these things up. These are still probably like, I don't know, 35, 40 bucks. Like everything that you're going to buy Klein is like the best that you can buy. So it's going to be expensive, but it's also, you're a professional. You're not like Johnny homeowner that's just barely ever using their tools. You're using your tools all day, every day, and you're using them very roughly. You know, like we do rigid, hard professional work with like really heavy duty materials. So you need good stuff. Now, if you're an apprentice, do you have to go get Klein? No, but you're going to want it, you know, after working with people every day that have this stuff and you get your hands on one, maybe it's like, oh, hey, pick my thing up over here and do this. And you're using it. You're like, whoa, this Knipex and this Klein, this just feels different. This feels like pro grade, you know, and they last. So, I would say you want to aspire to having some of these, aspire to having a set of Milwaukee drills because they are the best. They're rigid, they're rugged. But for your starter tools, you can use cheaper stuff like Cobalt, I think is what Lowe's brand is. Cobalt, Lowe's owns Cobalt, kind of like, what is Home Depot's version of Cobalt? Craftsman, I think. It's the low grade, you know, cheap, crappy versions of stuff that aren't meant for pro grade use. They're fine. Most of these tools nowadays, drill motors and stuff like that, have been engineered to be a lot more rugged than they used to be back in the day. But there's still a way bigger difference between the inner engineering of the motors that make these drills up. Milwaukee, actually, if you were to open all of Milwaukee's tools, there's tons of different motors inside that are designed for very specific applications. Whereas some of the other brands you open up and it's the same motor running on multiple different tools, and that's why a lot of their tools don't last, because they don't have everything specifically designed for each task.
You should check comments.
Okay. Scroll up a little bit. RotoZip MC jacket splitter, Michael Noble. Thank you. I don't have that up here. That's embarrassing. Well, there's like 3,000 more tools that I have on the other side of this wall. I just don't have enough space. So there's actually a lot of stuff that I don't have on here. But that's great. Most of the roto splitters out there I hate. So like Milwaukee or any few tool companies, Klein, I think as an industry we need to rethink splitting. I think there needs to be a new, different tool that is used to split MC with. Like, they're fine, they do their job, it's okay, but a lot of times the blades break, the handles are wonky. Sometimes when you squeeze down on them, they will cut or they won't cut. So they're just kind of a pain in the butt. And then to put it in your tools, you got this big swinging handle, and the handle usually falls out where your extra blade is. And so they just suck as a tool. How many people like type in the word S in chat if you think roto splitters suck as a design? If there was something better that you just like, you literally like, I don't know, squeeze, twist, do something. There's got to be a better way. Pop something. Like maybe there's like an attachment that you can use a drill and put it around something, and you just push a button and it goes clunk and it breaks it. There's got to be a million ways to engineer the roto splitter better, because I feel like it's still from the 1920s and it sucks. But is a definite tool that you need to have that should be on this table. So thank you for pointing that out. Alan Zelensky Sr., take care of your stuff. Love it. You must be an older guy like me that actually cares about that stuff. Eric Philbrick, Commercial Electric. Get out of here, bro. That's the cheapest. I think we're getting trolled with the Commercial Electric brand. Commercial Electric is, let's call it an affordable brand. It's the cheapest version of everything that you can buy. You're going to get really cheap prices. But in my experience, they're the first ones to start having problems and go bad. But if you want to be less careful with your stuff and you're okay just paying money to keep replacing it, yeah, they're totally fine. I also just don't like the ergonomics of a lot of their tools and how they're constructed, the insulation on the screwdrivers. There's some lineman pliers that I've had that are not high leverage that they've designed. So I don't know. They're a cheap brand, and they haven't been doing this for like 160 years like Klein Tools. So they've kind of perfected the stuff that we use. And I'm not sponsored by Klein. This isn't me like, like trying to get you guys into a sponsorship. I'm just saying that they are that good. Oh, that was my tick tracer. Do you guys call the tick tracer something else? What do you guys call this? I've always called it a tick tracer. You can call it an NCT or an NCVT tester, non-contact voltage tester is what it's actually called. I've heard people call them sniffers, death sticks. I'm just kind of curious. Throw yours in there. All right. Preach, brother. Just had my truck OOC and lost 2 jobs. Oh, out of commission. I had scheduled because I couldn't get to them. Take care of your trucks, guys. Yeah, dude. And there's kind of this thing where when you get a company truck too, a lot of people are really hard on company trucks because they don't care, right? Not my truck, not my problem. Boss has got to take care of it. It is yours. And if that thing goes out and they don't have a backup for you, you're screwed. And that is your truck. If you're issued a truck from the company, they just handed you like a brand new $50,000 tool. Like, would you just go and like throw this into the lake and not care and like smash it into stuff when you got it? It's brand new. You're like really protective of these things. You want to make sure that they're taken care of. You're not letting apprentices smoke your motors because they don't know how to drill things with speed and cooling materials. You're going to take care of it because you had to pay for it. With company trucks, it's the same thing. I view your company truck as your truck. So like, take care of your truck so that at work you can always do your things and you always got your shit because your shit's taken care of. Your boss doesn't have to worry about you treating stuff bad. Like, you take care of your stuff. And that, again, that's just a mentality that goes to everything you have around you. Your job sites, you're going to start running job sites better. You're going to be more organized about your materials. You're not going to be tripping over shit because you just don't care about anything. Start caring and start carrying yourself as a professional. And a professional takes care of their vehicles and their tools. All right. Alan Zielinski says Rigid. Rigid's Home Depot. Yeah, I think DeWalt is too. DeWalt is owned by Stanley Black & Decker, but I thought I had heard something about like Home Depot, DeWalt, maybe not. You want to see something really crazy, y'all should go, and there's an org chart on the internet that shows who owns what tools. And if you just Google it, say like who owns all tools in the world, there's like 5 companies that own all of the companies. And so you'll have one company that you don't realize is like, you know, got 7 different companies under them, and they're all kind of owned like that. So most of the time companies, tools, it doesn't really matter. But the specific brands, why they matter is because, like Milwaukee, for instance, they're owned by somebody. It's a Hong Kong-based company that bought into them like 20 years ago. But they're still like the best tools that you can get. So like regardless where they're made, it's still solving every problem that we need out in the field. So that's why this brand matters, because this brand is literally the best that you can get for power tools. You know, the same thing for like Kniepex and Klein, I think, are probably the 2 brands that are the best at hand tools. And that the reason the brand matters is because they've time tested for a lot of years. They've seen every problem, they've heard every complaint, so they know what they're doing. That's why I'm so much of a jockey on, like, you know, what brands that you buy. Every time I buy a, hold on a second. Every time I buy one of these wire cutters, I go Greenlee. I just do it because I've used Greenlee, and I've used a lot of different types of these things. I've even used like lock cutters, you know, the big loppers that you use. I've used these things. Milwaukee makes these, and these are the biggest piece of crap in the world. Milwaukee, I'm sorry if you're watching this. They're not long enough handles, so you really can't get through much, because like, look how far my hand can open. I can only cut material that big. So you're talking about like cutting number 8s with this. It's just silly for the tool to have that. I'd rather have something that's ratcheting like this. You stick a big wire in there, you ratchet it, and it cuts through. Now this is an older model of this, but they've got some other, I went to Nika and they gave me 2 of these to take home. Thank you, Greenlee, if you're watching. But there's tools that are made that are like time tested, true, best in class, are gonna last you forever if you take care of them. So I'm very brand specific. Anytime I have a ratcheting cutter, I'm just going to go Greenlee, because they've proven themselves to me through my profession. All right. Enough of my doting on brands here. Have you seen the Klein broom from R? I have not. They have a Klein broom? Is that a troll, or did they really make a Klein broom?
You took my phone, sorry.
You can't look things up. I mean, it wouldn't put me past me, because, like, look, all of these companies are vying for market share right now. They're all kind of trying to take each other out of the water. That's, you know, why Milwaukee all of a sudden has hand tools. They're trying to get into the hand tool game after being a power tool game. But a lot of companies are doing this. DeWalt does the same thing. They all do it. So it's like, what new thing can we do that gives us an edge above our competition? What new, like, weird tool can we develop? So I wouldn't be surprised if Klein has a broom. Klein sent me some knee pads probably like 5 years ago or more. And I was like, knee pads? Like, why are you sending me knee pads? Why do you make knee pads? Electricians don't get on their knees. That's other trades. We stand proudly. But yeah, like, I didn't know that they made knee pads, you know, so they make knee pads. There's all kinds of different things that are getting made. All right, so I'm looking on screen right now. Drake is showing me Klein Tools broom. It's just a broom with the word Klein Tools on it. That's got to be a troll.
Yeah.
It looks like somebody literally printed out a label that says Klein Tools and just put it on. All right. Good troll. You got me there. Alan Zielinski, I'm 62. Dustin, can you beat me? Yeah, bro, I can beat you over the head with a hammer. I could probably beat you in...
Chess, maybe?
In chess. I don't know what you're talking about. If I can beat you. Depends. If you're talking about like wiring stuff, there are some old school cats that can work circles around me, and I'm pretty fast. Like, I move with purpose when I'm on a job site. I ain't lazy. I'm full 10 toes deep when I'm standing on business. I know that was so fucking corny. It's a rap song. I listen to rap. Like, leave me alone. But no, I'm serious. When I work, like, I put it in. So, but I have worked around some of these old Texas, you know, like old school 40-year-old electricians, and somehow they always run circles around me. So I got mad respect for people of age that are in this trade, because I'm just trying to keep up. I think it's the work smarter, not harder thing, because honestly, they've just learned over the years like better ways of doing stuff, and they'll see me like driving around in first gear at 900 miles an hour, and they're just laughing like, dude, I can do that 10 times faster with like one turn of a screw, but you're like running around the whole building right now. So I'm still guilty of that, and I've been doing this almost 20 years. Kevin Sahakian, have you found any reliable multi-bit impact screwdriver attachments? I've tried the one from DeWalt, but the bit is too small and keeps failing. Reliable multi-bit impact screwdriver attachments. I guess if what you're talking about is like, I mean, we got these drill attachments, right? I don't know what you mean by multi-bit, because they all, generally, all your bits are just going to have this 1/4 inch hole that they go into. What I urge you to do is make sure that they're magnetic. Don't buy one of these if they're not magnetic, because this thing, when I put it in, boom, it just sucks in place. So they stay in a lot more. Everything that you put, any kind of extensions that you get, if you have like 1/4 inch nut drivers, 3/8, if you have socket sets, anything that you put in, just make sure that if this shank is magnetic, that everything you put into it will suck into it. And then I always like these ones that have a slide too, because sometimes you have certain screws that are non-magnetic, like there might be aluminum or something like that, and they don't magnetize. So at least you can put this over, or say you've got like a 4-inch screw. Well, even if it's magnetic, that might fall off there, or it might just hang down. So having this little thing that slides out, I love it because it just keeps everything pointing straight. But I don't know of like a multi-tool version of this. Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean by that. Maybe drop like a part number or something in so I can see what you're talking about. J Ferrara 207, it's a shit stick. I think that's what I'm going to start calling these. I'm pretty sure that's what you were talking about when I asked what you guys call these. A shit stick. I like that. I call it a wiggy. This is actually not a wiggy. If you look for a wiggy on Google, it's a type of multimeter, a type of voltage tester from like a long time ago. Yeah. But I could see, the name of that being a wiggy. Maybe you can create, Miles Harlan, maybe you can create your own roto splitter or collaborate with Klein tools. Yeah, I think that would be a great idea. I actually have a whole bunch of different ideas. Most of the time I'll go like, a lot of people have like annual events, like Milwaukee has their NPS every year, their new product symposium. So I've gone to those and I'll give their engineers like, hey man, you need to do this and this and this, and here's the problem. And I like give them all my good ideas. And a lot of times it doesn't go anywhere, right? But like, there's been quite a few tools that, funny enough, a year later at NECA, all of a sudden they have this thing. And a lot of times it's the same people that you're talking to over year after year. But I feel like I've dispensed so much advice. But I think you're right. I mean, like if Klein could hear from enough of us that we're sick of using this one tool, it just sucks as a design, I'm sure that they would put effort into it. But they also have a lot of marketing and thinking about the cost and production and how many people are actually going to buy and what markets. And so a lot of ideas die when they don't think enough electricians in an area will buy something. That's just the dynamics of business. Tap Magic cutting fluid, cutting oil. Oh, it's Cisco. Wait, Cisco? No, Crisco is the... Cisco that stuff that you cook with, lard? Or is that Crisco? Oh, I saw the name Cisco and I thought about a troll. There's a lot more people that troll these days in comments, so I thought you were trolling with your name Cisco. Yeah, Tap Magic cutting fluid. Write that down too. Tap Magic cutting oil. Yeah, that's a really big thing too. A lot of y'all aren't doing when you have bits and blades. You got to realize these tools, all of these, wear faster with heat and vibration. The two things that are the most important when you've got a saw blade or you've got some kind of drill bit is it will last you so much longer if you go at a lower speed and don't let the material get so hot that the tool, that this cutting edge gets so hot that it actually starts to roll the edge and deform. Vibration's the other one. Anytime you have like a circular saw blade, that thing vibrates as you're cutting. So there's a lot of blades and things that people have designed, like this is really thick, so there's less vibration on it. But if you don't use a cutting oil when you're cutting, say, like a 2-inch hole in a piece of metal, if you go at a slow speed and you put some kind of cutting oil or some kind of fluid that's viscous enough that can retain some of that heat and keep the heat off of the actual material, you're going to keep your blades lasting way longer. It's literally heat that kills it. I see people put these things in their drill and they go at speed 2 and they're drilling through metal just forever trying to get through, and it's like, well, You just bought that $50 bit, and within 5 minutes you've ruined the tip of it. So the rest of the time you're going to use that tool, it's going to suck because the tip's not doing its job. So just make sure that you think about heat and vibration on these. Any holes that you're drilling. The other thing too is the actual tool itself. Like a lot of people will use this thing as a hole hog. You know, they'll like try to drill through all their studs. But you get a motor really, really, really hot, you're going to start damaging that motor. You're going to start overheating the motor. So if you're using these drills, use them at certain speeds. Give them rests so that they can cool down. If this thing is so hot that it hurts your hand, you've already fucked up. You've already gone too much, created way too much heat in that motor. So don't let these things get that hot. Just let them have a rest period. You know, let it chill out for a minute, cool down a little bit, and start using them again. But heat and vibration, they're the worst things. So make sure, with anything that you're cutting, don't let it get too hot. And cutting oil is something that you can use that actually keeps that temperature down. It's just an oil that that helps to pull out any of that heat. You can use gun butter to lube drill bits, hole saws too. All right, never really would have thought of that. That's a great tip. Peter Smart says Makita. All right, let's talk about Makita. You got some Makita tools, probably because I gave them to you, right?
Yeah.
Like Sawzall and stuff years ago.
I still like them.
Yeah, and they're not a bad brand.
Yeah.
What Makita has done that's made me not want to use them anymore is they've gone to this placing importance on ergonomics and smallness. So they want to get tools that are smaller, that are more comfortable in your hand, that are like lighter weight, but they are okay sacrificing rigidity, like ruggedness in a tool. And that's where I was like, guys, I've loved I used to have the white drill that everybody had, the white drill with black handle. I've had the black drills. I've had the whatever that green is, the Milwaukee green, this like kind of a green. And I loved them. I loved them all day long. They were small drills. I was coming from the old school rigid one with the brick batteries, these monster drills. And then when I got the Makita, I was like, whoa, this thing's so light. And I would hang it on my drill every day, or on my tools every day. I loved Makita. Loved. And then I got Milwaukee. And that's what happened. Truly, I just got I had my holy shit moment. And so started using them. But also, the more Makita's tools that I hold nowadays, I'm just like, oh, this is really soft and light and small, and I just don't feel like that ruggedness is there anymore. Otherwise, though, they're a great brand. Lots of people love Makita. I am not for the big four professional brands: Rigid, Milwaukee, DeWalt, and Makita. They're the best. Can't go wrong. And you're gonna have people in comments being like, "This sucks" or "This is better." Dude, they're all 4 grade. They're all 4 pro grade. I would say anything less than that, if you're getting Ryobi is not designed for professionals. They admit that openly themselves as a company. They're making tools for the DIY person, the dad that has tools in his garage and uses them on the weekend, DIY light use. They don't have motors that are designed, and the tool is not designed to take a fall from a ladder, and they're not using, the use case for these is professional, drilling through steel all day, every day for 365 days a year. So it's just a different use case. So I would stay away from the Ryobi for the professional use. I would stay away from Cobalt, Craftsman. The one thing that I don't have a lot of experience with is Hilti. So how many of you guys out there have experience using Hilti? I have a lot of experience with, jackhammers and rock saws and really big tools that you don't normally just carry around, stuff that you rent out. So I've got a lot of their really big stuff, but I've never really used Hilti's drill set or anything like that. So any of you guys out there using Hilti, if you think that it's better than Milwaukee or it's better, I've heard people say Hilti's the best of the best. I just can't guarantee that. All right, we got a few minutes. I'm blabbering through stuff here. NCTV is a shit stick. It needs to catch on. I love mine. Essentially term of endearment now for my one with the laser distance. Oh, you talking about one of these? I have one that has a laser on it, and I love it, and I just use it as a laser pointer. I'll tell some apprentice, hey, see 30 feet up there? Boom, I'm painting a laser what I want them to do, so I kind of just use it as a pointer. But yeah, I could see it being called that as well. Peter Smart, raise your hand if you don't own a pair of linemen or diagonals with a burn hole in the cutting edge. Yes, thank you for saying it. Thank you for being the voice of reason. I think every single one of us has a pair of these that is completely burnt out. Raise your hand if you have those and you still use them, but you use them as strippers now. I did that for a while. I was like so pissed because I just went and bought one. And I was probably a second-year apprentice. I had just went and bought one of these. I was making $15 an hour and I paid child support, so I was really only making $7.50. So I had no money. I had 3 jobs and I finally was so proud. And I cut through something live, poof, burnt a hole, and I'm like, well, I guess you're a stripper now. And I would use that hole. Stupid. Like, it was stupid. But yeah, I think everybody's got a set of those that are burnt. Probably linemen's too, right? Oh, why is there tape all over that? Oh, because this was on the board out there. All right, let's see what else we got. Hilti is quality tools. Thank you, Nest Owner. I've always heard great things about Hilti. Only thing Hilti is good for, straight bar says, is for hammer drill. Okay. Cisco Hilti is great for specialty tools. The white Makitas are homeowner grade. Google it. Okay. After using Hilti, I'll never go back, Kevin. Yeah, so I mean, generally, I think people that like use Hilti every day, largely not U.S. There's certain companies that are just generally used in the U.S. and certain companies that are used bigger in other countries. Like in Germany, for instance, there's a lot of this out there. There's not so much Klein. Klein's actually kind of relatively a U.S. market, where you have some of these other companies. Like Milwaukee's a global company. They have tools everywhere in the world and people are able to use them. The only downside with Klein is they've just been US made, US pride. That's kind of their whole thing. And so they're largely used in the US, and that's why people use those brands here. I would love to see Klein being used everywhere in the world. Maybe they'll get there someday. Again, I'm a huge fan of Klein. All right. Does anyone have a solid solution for broken Milwaukee batteries? All right, that's my last comment that I'm going to end on. Yeah, throw them in the garbage, man. when I was an apprentice, I used to take these things out because it would piss me off, right? Like I'd have a battery that's burned up and I have like 3 more, or one of them like won't go beyond like the one light in here, and you think that it's completely charged and then it doesn't work anymore. I've actually pulled these entire battery packs apart before, and I've got out a soldering kit, and I have tried to like sit and mess with and make them work. I don't recommend doing this. There's a lot of technology and things that go on with these things once you get these packs open. If you're like an electrical engineer and you know what you're doing and you get in there and understand the dynamics of what's happening in here, you might be able to make something happen. But how their charging works, computer board, the cells that they use, everything, it's way more complex. And it's not even just Milwaukee, it's like all of them. It's not as easy to just hack one of these batteries as you think it is. It is interesting though, if you have a really like a bad battery that you're just going to throw away, I'd crack the case open and see what's inside, see how they work. They look like if you ever bought like a vape, you know, like those big batteries that come in vapes. It's the same kind of thing. There's just little like cells. Each one of them's probably this thick. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 inside of this thing, and that's what makes it up. It's all these small little battery packs that make it up. So, did we hit all the things? We didn't cover anywhere near. We didn't cover any of the masonry bits. We didn't cover any of these like little specialty 90-degree things for your drill. I love these because if you're in like you got to get into like a 3-inch can hole and you got to drill something inside of there, you can just stick this up inside of it and drill. Oh, I love that. I didn't get into my metal cutters, channel locks, conduit stuff. Man, I didn't get into like anything. I talk too much. Here, let's talk about hammers really quick. Here's my recommendation for hammers. Estwing, all day long, every day. Love this hammer. 28's probably going to be a little heavy for most people. It's very top-end heavy, so if you got little weak arms, this might not work for you. It's not even that. It's like if you're like a 6'5" person, this is the hammer that's meant for you. You have long arms, so extending that leverage out and swinging 28's perfect. I typically will go for like a 22 ounce. This is a 22. I just like the balance. It's not so top end heavy, so there's actually a really good fulcrum on a 22 ounce. Stiletto for a brand. These are the best hammers I've ever touched in my life. They're just so well thought out. They're aluminum. So these two hammers are the same hammer. It's just this one's 14 ounces because it's all aluminum. It's also $250 where this is $20 at Home Depot. So the only reason I have these is because Milwaukee bought Stiletto a long time ago. They bought like Empire Tools as well. Empire makes levels. They're buying the whole world. Milwaukee is. But anyways, I got sent a bunch of these. There's no way in hell I'm paying $250 for a hammer. But if you're ever fortunate to get one of these, you're going to love it because it's like so lightweight. You still get the same leverage, the same swing because of the length of it, but they're really nice to use. You can even change the tips out, so you'll notice that this is a flat face and this is a waffled face. So I'd be careful out there. Any of you guys that are doing residential new construction, you're working with Romex, and you start stapling with this waffling, you can actually damage that insulation, or not the insulation, the sheathing, that yellow sheathing. And if you hit hard enough, you're going to damage the internal insulation around the black and the white conductors. So a lot of people don't like their apprentices using these waffled fronts. I love them. It's just when you strike something, it sticks. It doesn't slide off. But also the size of the face of your hammer. Like all three of these, I've got pretty huge faces on. A normal hammer, you're probably looking like something like that size. So these are actually quite large, and it just makes more probability of you hitting, greater surface area. So that's for the hammers. For hole saw or for keyhole saws, I don't like stuff that's super bendable. This is a little bit thinner steel, and the wood handle and everything. It's just kind of a piece of crap. I think I was just like somebody gave this to me. Really lightweight. I don't really like where the leverage is too, because this is just like, it feels like hollow wood. This thing, Stanley, is so stout. Oh my God. This is my favorite. I don't want to use any other, not sponsored by Stanley in any way, but this thing is so much more rigid. And then the handle, it's got this flat back on it because a lot of times we're hitting into something, and just the ergonomics of how you hold it. I like the width of it. It just feels like a really stout keyhole saw. So I use this thing all day long, every day. Chisels, I recommend you guys get some concrete chisels as well as wood chisels. I just don't have my wood chisels here. I have wood chisels that are like really sharp, really nice. I keep them so they don't get knocked around and damaged. But if you're doing a lot of fine work where you have to like chisel out for a door jamb switch in a closet or something like that, you're going to use those. These I use down in Texas. There's not so much like brick and like soft siding, like vinyl siding when you have houses. Most of the time we're using huge stone, like limestone. And so limestone is like this, and you try to put a service panel on it and the thing sits all crooked. So a lot of times we're having to sit and chisel out stone to try to get a flat surface. Milwaukee actually makes a rotary hammer that has both rotary and just hammer. So you can take a bit that is basically just a blade, and you don't need the rotation, you just need it to hammer back and forth, and you can just basically melt away like huge sections of stone. So I use those a lot. Oh, one other cool thing that a lot of people just might not know that I want to cover before we leave. Damn. This thing. Okay. These guys. This is a unibit, or a stepped bit for, like whoever marketing is on whatever package you're buying. I call it a unibit. You'll notice a difference with these two. So this is meant for an impact driver. This is meant for a regular drill. This thing slips. This thing doesn't slip. You can see the cutting edge is a spiral because this thing turns as a tool. It just makes more sense to have a spiral. It's got this huge area for material movement, where this one just has this, like little tiny area. So the difference in these is if you use this on an impact, you can't get this thing turning fast. Like, it'll go as fast as the drill will, but the more an impact digs into material, the more torque you end up using and the less speed you use. So this thing literally just goes and it cuts your holes in a hammering fashion at really slow speeds. I've had this one bit for years, and it is sharp as hell, and I use it all the time. With something like the other one that I just had, wherever it went, these things get so hot, people use them at high speeds, they're just not great, and they're $50. So if you can find an impact rated, this is from Milwaukee, by the way, they have a whole set of like different size ones. If you can find one for an impact, dude, it's gonna last you so much longer because you're cutting at slow speeds. It's hammering with the impact, but it's doing it at a low speed, so you're gonna just love cutting holes with one of these, and you're never gonna buy another one like this ever again. So I don't know. We didn't even get into multimeters, megger, socket sets. Damn, there's so many things we didn't talk about. But I gotta go, guys. Any last minute comments that you've seen that we should address?
You have my phone.
I have the phone. Sorry. RC Roads, so many tools. Great advice on how tools work and when to use what. The wood-handled key saw is fine for drywall. No big loss if you lose one. That's true. There is something to be said about cheap tools, right? They're replaceable. SDS rebar cutter bit only rebar by Milwaukee. Yeah, dude, the rebar cutter is really great. Not only does it shear your rebar, but it keeps the threads, if that's the one you're talking about. Dustin, do you like the 12 volt Milwaukee drills, or do you prefer the 18s? That's actually a great question. Look here, I've got a 12 and I've got an 18. I keep the 18s because I just want the most amount of voltage, the most amount of power, and the longest amount of life, size, battery pack, everything. As a professional out in the field doing this, I want the ability to go from a residential environment where we're not putting these things under so much stress, and then go into a commercial job and putting them under a lot more stress, or going into an industrial environment. The 12 volts still work. I know a lot of guys that are in resi that use these 12 volts. The batteries, you just don't get as much battery life. Plus, the voltage, you only have the pressure in the circuit that drives this is a lower pressure. So you don't have as much force, as much EMF behind this tool when you have 12 volts versus 18. That being said, the 12 volt versions of these tools are super impressive still. Like, they have different batteries that have extra capacity to them. They're lighter weight. So why I have both of these here is because I actually use this as just a screw gun. This isn't drilling through material. This is literally just putting devices in, taking devices out, and it's so small that I can keep it literally in my tool pouch. And I love that about it. So for a screw gun, I don't mind it being 12 volts. There's some like lights and stuff like that Milwaukee makes. Well, this one's at 18 volt. But a lot of that 12 volt stuff is totally fine as long as you don't need the extra rugged use out of it. Once it starts getting into rigidity and like really rugged, long-lasting super power, I think 18 all day long. So I'm sorry if I didn't get to some of your guys' comments. We do have to go. Keep throwing your comments in here because I can still, once we close out of a video, you guys can still keep leaving comments and then we come back. What I do want you guys to do that nobody ever does when I ask this, so please do this. If there's some things that you would like to see on these lives, we just come up with this stuff week after week, like on the fly. If next Friday's video, you want to hear me talk about a certain kind of thing that I can rant for 30 minutes to an hour about, theory, like whatever you want to do, throw some ideas in chat, please, and we'll read through them and see. Maybe next Friday we'll do one of them. So, love you crazy people. Thanks for all the years of support, and I'll see you next Friday.